Susceptibility to the Müller-Lyer illusion in neurotypical individuals expressing autistic traits. Illusions are all around us. They're used in art, fashion, and interior design, to name a few. The Müller-Lyer illusion is a well-known visual illusion that consists of a straight line with two wings on both ends that either project outward or inward. The central line is perceived as longer when the wings are outward and shorter when the wings are inward. Some explain the illusory mechanism using a perspective description, where the wings could be the top and bottom of a corner. This explanation utilizes size constancy, which is used in drawings to create depth. So when we see what looks like the inside corner of a room, as in the outward wings Müller-Lyer, humans rationalize that the central line is far from us, and thus its size is not what it appears to be, but rather should be inflated to account for how far away from us it is. The opposite is suggested when looking at an inwards wings Müller-Lyer. This explanation is by no means the only viable explanation, and to boot, it cannot explain why a circle Müller-Lyer figure gives a similar, albeit weaker, size illusion. Now, how the Müller-Lyer illusion works may help explain varying experiences of the illusion. For example, the autism and illusion literature is mixed, with some studies claiming autism correlates with a decreased susceptibility to certain illusions, but not to others, and still other studies report no differences. Thus, the question remains, does autism affect illusion susceptibility? The other question we aimed to answer was how illusory magnitude of bias in the Müller-Lyer changes with different modes of measuring bias. Forced choice tasks and adjustment tasks have been used to determine perceived length differences of the Müller-Lyer illusion in people with autism and neurotypicals expressing autistic traits. Both forced choice and adjustment tasks were used in the present study to determine if either modes of measuring were associated with differences in illusion susceptibility as a function of autistic trait expression. And as participant sex has also been suspected to influence illusory bias, it was also investigated. Instead of recruiting participants with diagnosed autism, Chouinard and colleagues recruited neurotypicals and assessed their autistic trait expression. Similarly, we recruited neurotypicals expressing autistic traits quantified with a pair of validated, non-diagnostic questionnaires, the Autism Spectrum Quotient and the Systemizing Quotient. And in the COVID world, we needed to utilize remote online testing, and so participants completed our set of 4 tasks on their own computers while video conferencing with the researcher. 2 of the tasks were forced choice tasks, where participants responded with direction-congruent key press to the longer central line of a composite pair of Müller-Lyer figures. Both tasks presented composite Müller-Lyer pairs where one figure was longer than the other. Task 1 presented the figures concurrently, whereas Task 2 presented the figures successively. And we hypothesized that participants with higher autistic trait expression would respond incorrectly less often than participants with lower expression. We also used 2 perceptual adjustment tasks where participants' key presses changed the size of the figure to match its size to that of the target illusory figure. A plain vertical line was adjusted in Task 3, whereas a composite Müller-Lyer figure was adjusted in Task 4. We predicted those with higher autistic trait expression would adjust the figures with less error than those with lower expression. Our primary dependent variable for the forced choice tasks was biased figure selection, which was the number of times a participant selected a shorter wings out figure of a pair. This selection implied their susceptibility to the illusion, as they wrongly inflated the size of the figure. A 2-task by 2-sex mixed measures ANOVA was conducted for biased figure selection. Then constant error and variable error were used to determine accuracy in the adjustment tasks. Here, a pair of 2-task by 2-target by 2-sex mixed measures ANOVAs were conducted for constant and variable error. Given our main objective of determining whether autistic traits modulate illusion susceptibility, we also ran correlations between biased outcomes and both measures of autistic trait expression. Outcomes from the forced choice tasks showed concurrent presentation to induce a greater illusory effect than successive presentation. Participants were more likely to incorrectly select the shorter wings out figure when the 2 figures were presented simultaneously. Contrary to our hypothesis, there was a lack of any correlation between biased figure selection and autistic trait expression. In the adjustment tasks, participants were more accurate in their adjustments of non-illusory figures, as evidenced by a significant interaction effect in constant error between task and target. This interaction showed that when participants adjusted a non-illusory figure, they had a constant error score closer to 0 than when adjusting a composite illusory figure. The analysis of variable error resulted in a main effect for task, where adjustments of non-illusory figures were more consistent than adjustments of illusory figures. Constant and variable error were found to significantly correlate with scores on the AQ, but only when adjusting a composite illusory figure. As AQ scores increased, constant and variable error scores decreased. And participant sex did not influence illusory bias in any task. The primary hypotheses of our study were that increased expression of autistic traits would reduce illusory bias in our tasks. And we found our hypothesis to be rejected in every instance except when participants adjusted a Müller-Lyer figure to match a target Müller-Lyer figure of the opposite orientation. In this task, increasing autistic trait expression coincided with a more accurate adjustment. We also found that presenting two Müller-Lyer figures simultaneously resulted in a larger illusory bias in both the forced choice and adjustment tasks. This finding is consistent with the superadditivity phenomenon that increases illusory bias. Superadditivity in illusions occurs when a direct comparison of complementing illusions increases the perceived size difference. In the forced choice task, presenting the figures together created a superadditive effect. As the wings out Müller-Lyer figure produces an illusory elongating effect, superadditivity further lengthened the figure, influencing participants to consider it as the longer of the pair. In the adjustment tasks, superadditivity was not present when participants adjusted a vertical line to a target Müller-Lyer figure, but was present when they adjusted a composite illusory pair. Thus, superadditivity in the illusory adjustment task and the task's relationship of improving accuracy with increasing autistic trait expression suggests increased autistic trait expression reduces illusion susceptibility when the illusory figures are concurrently presented. However, superadditivity was also present in the forced choice concurrent presentation task, but we did not see a performance benefit here from increased autistic trait expression. Thus, aside from presenting illusions concurrently, task type is also a condition for reduced illusion susceptibility with increased autistic trait expression. To conclude, our study used a repeated measures design to systematically probe how task type influences illusion susceptibility with the goal of contributing to the mixed literature investigating the effect of autism on illusion susceptibility. We found autistic trait expression did not affect the overall Müller-Lyer illusion susceptibility. Instead, reduced illusion susceptibility with increasing autistic trait expression was only observed in a very specific case. Higher autistic trait expression in our neurotypical sample, as quantified by the autism spectrum quotient, reduced illusion susceptibility in adjustment tasks when the opposing Müller-Lyer figures were presented together. Thank you.